Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the entire District A12 Global Membership Team, I'd like to thank you for taking the time out tonight to learn a little bit about the importance of service as a recruiting tool and how you can leverage participation in the annual District A12 Lions Day of Service. So I'm Chris Lewis. I'm the District A12 Global Membership Team Coordinator, and on the webinar tonight helping me with the presentation is Bob Murray, and he's our Community Service Specialist for the A12 Global Membership Team. And on the webinar tonight, we have Lions not only from our own district of A12, but we have participants from all across the country, from Newfoundland and Labrador to Saskatchewan and beyond. Some of these Lions are looking at the A12 Lions Day of Service and considering implementing the concept in their own districts. So it's great to have them on the call tonight as well. So I think we should quickly review the interface you'll see on the see this evening on the webinar. First off, many of you who may have participated in webinars before, this will just be a refresher, but for those of you who are participating for the first time using GoToWebinar, there's a couple of things you should know. The left panel that you see on the screen that says webinar housekeeping right now would be your main viewer, and that's where the presentation will be seen. To the right is the GoToWebinar control panel, and on this control panel is where you can raise your hand, ask questions, and select audio mode. If it collapses, just click on the view menu and uncheck auto hide control panel. On this screen, this is where you can select some of your audio functions, such as microphone and headset or speakers, to ensure that you're getting the best audio you can for the call. Below that is your question pane. And in the question pane, you can either type in a question and participate in the chat box, where you can ask questions or participate in some of our discussions, or you can raise your hand, and then when you're raised your hand, one of our moderators will unmute you, and you'll be able to speak into your microphone and discuss your thoughts with everybody on the call. So our objectives for tonight's call, or tonight's webinar, is first off, Bob's going to be discussing what community service is and also perhaps what it isn't. We're going to talk about the importance of service in a club's recruitment and retention plan. And then we're going to review ways that clubs in District A12 can participate fully in the upcoming A12 Day of Service, which is coming up very, very quickly in just over a month. So let's get started. We have a community service specialist. His name is Bob Murray. He'll be our next presenter. And on the global membership team, his role is to promote and encourage clubs to conduct community service projects to improve our image and engage our membership. And through his role, he helps identify new service activities, he follows up on service activity reporting, and he shares best practices in increasing the service impact of our clubs. He's a real asset to the global membership team, so I'd like to turn the call over to him. Okay, Bob, you can go ahead.
Good evening, all. Everybody hear me okay, I hope?
Yep, you come through okay.
Okay. Many Lions have difficulty in understanding what service is. So what we'd like to start off tonight is sort of a game, if you wish. Is it service or is it not? We'll give you an activity, a Lions activity, and in the chat box, if you could indicate whether you think it is a service activity or not. Chris? The first one, of course, selling raffle tickets. Would we consider that to be a service activity?
Okay, if you just want to answer in your chat box. We have several coming in saying no. Susan Sangster says no. Brian says no. Bill Friday says no. Seems pretty obvious, Bob, that it's a no.
I guess we would consider that to be a fundraising activity where we ask the public for money, and hopefully we're going to use that money for something else, perhaps a service activity, we hope. The activity isn't immediately directly impacting people, so we would not consider that to be a service. So move on to the next one, Chris. So let's think about food bank collection. Collecting food for a food bank. Would that be a service or no?
Okay, we have some people say yes. We have a couple of comments that indicate yes, it is. Yes, if we're doing it for another organization. No, it seems overwhelmingly yes.
Yes, it would be a service project, and it is a great chance to partner with another organization. We're helping people in the community, be it local or maybe outside of your immediate area, but it's definitely providing a service to a community. So the next choice, Chris? The infamous Pancake Breakfast. Now, would we consider that to be a service or not?
Kathy says no. Tim says whether, depending if it's free or not.
It could be pancakes, it could be hamburgers.
Yeah,
there's a lot of cooking.
Yeah, there's a little bit up and down here. Some people are saying free, some people are no, depends if there's a charge.
So it's probably not a true service if we're charging for it and raising money, but there are cases in our club. We help out the local soccer team. They have a year-end barbecue. They used to always have their parents tied up doing the barbecue. In the last 3 years, our club has had about 10 people come out. The barbecues are provided, the food is provided, and we do the labor. And I think last year we did 1,200 hot dogs and buns. And we went through, I think, 7 or 8 tubs of ice cream out of our ice cream trailer. So we didn't raise money, and we in the club consider it to be a service to the community and especially to the soccer parents. So I think it's obvious if you're making money, maybe not so much a service, but if you're helping another group and providing labor, then that might be a service. So another one, Chris?
Sure.
Yes, the roadside cleanup. What's the feeling on that as far as being a service?
Well, most people are saying it's a service, but aren't you just doing something for the town? Is that really a service?
In my case, it's a service because the stretch of road that gets cleaned up happens to be in front of my house. So.
Yeah, it probably is something that impacts a whole lot of people, isn't it?
I don't think the towns and the municipalities really have the horsepower to clean the ditches and that anymore. And I know that roadside cleanup Adopt the Highway has been around for quite a while, and I think it's all over North America, is it not?
I think so. Most communities I've traveled to has it. So Susan says it definitely impacts the community, so it must be community service. And
it is another case where
go ahead.
It's another case where you can get other groups involved, the scouts and that, the younger people, volunteer hours. You can get your relatives or your members with kids that need to get their hours in, and it helps them.
Len, by the way, comments that environmental projects are one of the 4 centennial projects too.
That must make Dave feel happy.
It must. And interestingly, Sandy also mentions that Tiny Township has gotten 2 new members because of cleaning up roads.
So shall we move on to the next one?
Sure.
Chris? So club meetings, would we consider that to be a service or not?
Well, we have some variation here. We have some saying no. Tim says no, but Bill says yes, it is service. So there's a little bit back and forth. Some are saying yes. Len says depends if it's planning a project. So what are your...
It might not be directly service, but they can contribute, especially towards increasing the service and planning, coordinating. You'll get people coming to your meeting asking for assistance or coming up with new projects for the club to help out with. So it will eventually tie into service, hopefully.
Now, Tim has a question, though. He says, but would that be a committee meeting or specifically about the service project? Would that meeting then count as doing community service? Bob? Did we lose you? Oh.
No, didn't lose me. I'm thinking.
Oh.
Basically, I don't know how much of a definition we want to put on it.
Like I would think if you're meeting and talking about a service project and working towards the planning of it, that would be part of the service project in itself.
Was Tim thinking of the reporting on the actual, on your MyLCI as to where you put your different activities down? Is that where he's questioning?
Nope, he's just talking about how would a committee meeting specifically about a service project versus a club general meeting be considered more of a service?
Oh, I'd have to think yes, that would be tied into service myself.
I agree. And Kathy also comments that the result of the planning of a service project is the service.
So we've looked at some that are easily service, some that are not so much.
Absolutely.
They all seem to relate back to something to do with service.
Right.
So we have a definition. Chris dug this out of the American Heritage Dictionary, defining community service as services volunteered by individuals or an organization to benefit people in a community or its institutions. So obviously service is important. We are called a service club. There are good reasons why service is important. So rolling on, Chris?
Sure. So
we have 1/3 up on the screen.
Yep. So a recent membership satisfaction survey in A12 shows that 1 out of 3 of our Lions feel their club doesn't do enough service. You know, that's a pretty big number, isn't it? Because 1/3 of our members believe service is important to them individually and that their clubs may not quite be meeting their needs. So I think that's a pretty scary number, don't you think, Bob?
Yes, that might explain the amount of people we have coming in the front door being matched by or exceeded by the people going out the back door.
Exactly. I think when you have 1/3 of the people that aren't satisfied or aren't satisfied with their service experience as a Lion, I think there's a real risk that those people either come into the organization and leave quickly, or they just don't have the same commitment level that other Lions have. So I think having a good service experience and good service projects are something that can really help you retain members. So anyone have any other ideas as to or thoughts as to why service can be important to that 1/3 of those Lions? You can enter your comments in the chat box, or you can raise your hand if you'd like to be unmuted. Nancy says it's part of the process. Oh no, that was an earlier chat. So, does anyone have any comments as to why it might be important to really focus on the 1/3 of the people who are concerned about not doing enough service?
Were they concerned about enough, Chris, or the type of service?
Well, the one-third commented that either their club wasn't doing enough service, or that they were doing too much fundraising and not enough service. Or then there was also a small group that said they weren't doing either fundraising or service. So, but it worked out to be about a total of 1/3 of our members. So if you think about it, that's 1/3 of our members who could potentially be on the edge, who could, be at risk of leaving our organization. So I think that's a pretty important comment and a pretty important thing to be conscious of. Some other things that can happen too, and I think Sandy hit it on the nose there too, is the fact that they've received 2 new members because of the service they were doing. So they did a road cleanup in their community, and they were able to attract 2 members in their community who, were obviously turned on by the service they were doing and really thought that they'd want to be a part of that club too. So the more service you do definitely does bring in more hands to your organization.
Could I just share something we're going to try in the Orma Club, Chris?
Sure, go ahead.
We have the luxury of having 10 relatively new members in the last 3 years. So we're going to meet actually the second week in April. We're going to try and have them develop a service project of their own. I heard about this from a Texas club, and apparently one of the Richmond Hill clubs, I think Tom would actually attest to this, has done this. So we're going to try this in our group and see if they can develop a club project for the community of their own and maybe get a sense of ownership due to that.
Yep, I think that's a fantastic idea, where you get those 10 new members all ingrained with service right from the beginning, and I think that really helps with lifelong service to the club. So some reasons why service can continue to be important is, on your screen you can see some pictures. You see the Tiny Township Lions Garden at their community center. So what that does is that beautifies a public space. So they put this garden in as their project last year during the day of service, and people will see that, know that the Tiny Township Lions are part of the community and have done something to make the community a better place to live and be in. So from a recruitment standpoint, service really does help. We have another picture of the Elmvale Leos collecting food for the food bank. And what that does is that starts to link the fact that the community of Elmvale has people in need, and that the Leos and the Lions are there to help with that need. And then with Perry Sound Lions holding a craft and reading event at their library for young people show their commitment to youth. So when clubs do visible service projects, they attract people in the community with like interests, and these people may want to be part of it. Because research shows that, research by Lions Clubs International shows clearly that people overwhelmingly join Lions to make a difference and to help others hands-on, not to participate in fundraising. So definitely the more service we do increases the number of hands we have to do service. I did notice that Cliff Cookman has raised his hand, so I'll just unmute Cliff. Cliff,
yeah, good evening.
Cliff, you're unmuted.
Okay, thank you. I think what happens is there's certain clubs have activities that they do to raise awareness and so on and so forth. For example, our own club, we have our Pancake Breakfast, as you were mentioning earlier, and it is done as a free as a free thing, and people recognize the fact that it's free, but they make donations. And that is not as a fundraiser, it's a free activity, and that further enhances our involvement in the community. And I think that's imperative to bringing in new members, to let them know what exactly service is.
I agree with you, and you know, and it's interesting that you know, Bob talked a little bit about projects which are service and projects which aren't. Sometimes the lines are kind of blended a little bit too. My own club does a Canadian flag program. It's been a major fundraiser in our town for probably 30 or 40 years. And what we do is we rent Canadian flags to merchants all through town. We put them up from the long weekend in May right up until Labor Day, and you know, and we make some sizable funds from it. But in some ways too, it's also a visible service project, because we're beautifying the town by placing Canadian flags out. We maintain it, and it provides a wonderful entrance as you enter our town with row after row of Canadian flags from one end of the town to the other. So even though it is a fundraiser, it has a service aspect as well too. So sometimes, as you said, Cliff, you know, they're not always, you know, one or the other, I think sometimes. Do you agree, Bob?
Oh, yes, definitely.
The other thing I might add too, Chris, our swimming lessons are free, and we run these things, we have been running them for the last 48 years. And as I say, being free, that's a service project, definitely a service project, but again, donations are made as just as a thank you for the service that we are providing.
Yep, you're really right. Tim has some great comments. He thinks your free swimming lessons are pretty cool. So, but yeah, you're right. Like when we provide service to our communities, it makes future Lions, in my opinion. It really does. And you know, it's all about having relevant service projects, looking at things that are relevant to your community, that your community needs, and then when you do those things, then it attracts members. We have a few other comments
Definitely.
here. Oh, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Cliff.
No, it's okay. I was just going to throw something else in, but no, I'm fine. I'll listen now for a minute or two and see if I can come up with other comments.
Okay, thanks, Cliff. Valerie Clark has raised her hand. I'll just unmute her. Hey, go ahead, Valerie. Val, you're unmuted. Hi.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We sure can.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. I'm calling from Newfoundland. Just want to mention, we just did a service project on March the 19th, actually, and we recruited 2 new members just from that project. And from that 2 new members, that new members actually, both of them are going to be installed this Tuesday night, and Eve already recruited another one of his friends to come on board. So actually, we've got 3 new members coming on board.
That's fantastic.
So, yeah, so it just goes to show that actually by getting people involved outside of our own Lions family itself, the general community, it does work.
Yeah, you're right. You know, I think most people don't join because they want to come to meetings, do they? Like, you know,
no.
I think most of us have had enough meetings in our work careers and so on that meetings are not the be-all end-all, but it's the service that I think really sells it on people. You know, even fundraisers, you know, like fundraisers can be fun at times too, but for the most part, I don't think people get the genuine satisfaction out of doing something that they do from doing hands-on service. So I think you're spot on, Val, where you know, you've done a project and then it's attracted people to join your club. So it's true, service does sell. Hey, thanks for your comments, Val.
Thank you.
You know, Dave Durant actually has a question he sent out to everyone. He said, how many current Lions have played ball on a Lions ball diamond or learned to swim at a Lions pool? Probably lots. And I think reminding people that service has been done is pretty important. So do you think we can all agree that service is the main reason why people join our organization? I think that's pretty obvious. So, Here in District A12, we have a service project that we conduct every year called the Lions Day of Service. And it's coming up this year on May 7th. So we want to touch a little bit on some of the ways that our club members can participate in the District A12 Day of Service. So the Day of Service is where the clubs in District A12 stop fundraising for just one day. And we understand that fundraising is important. We need we do need funds in order to provide some of the services and such that we do. But we just asked all our clubs to take at least one day of the year and just stop fundraising and instead focus on genuine service activities that benefit people within their community. So back when it began 3 years ago, many of the clubs in A12, I don't think, really understood what service was. If we had asked them those service or not questions earlier, I don't think many of the clubs would have been able to answer them correctly. So an effort was made to begin to change the focus of our clubs from fundraising towards service. So the Day of Service was born, and now it's in its third year, and thousands of people have been impacted through service activities of the clubs, not just on the one day of the Day of Service, but really with some extra focus and awareness, the clubs are conducting, I think, more service throughout the year as well. So it's pretty easy to participate, but where do you start as a club member? In the handout box over on your right-hand pane, you'll see 3 handouts, and you're welcome to download those and save them to your computer. One is the Day of Service Execution Guide, and then we also have the Day of Service logo for this year and a spreadsheet called Service Day Participation that you can use if you're trying to plan this at a district level. So I would encourage you to download those throughout the webinar, and if you don't have time to do so, just drop me a line after the webinar is over and I'll send it right out to you. So let's discuss a few of the key points in the Lions Day of Service Execution Guide. The very first step, because we're only a month away, is if your club has not assigned a coordinator yet for the club, now is the time. We can't delay any longer. So the club coordinator is really a person who plans and leads the club's Day of Service activity. So I'd recommend that you get that club coordinator a copy of the execution guide, which has a sample checklist for how to implement the Day of Service. Some of the dates in that checklist won't necessarily be accurate because they're from a couple of years ago, but the concept is still the same, that there are step-by-step checklists as to what to process as we go towards the Day of Service. The club coordinator should be someone who has some perhaps experience in leading a team or leading a committee, because it's going to involve ideally everybody in the club working together on a project. Then obviously the club needs to select a service project. So how do you select a service project? Maybe you can gain some information or some thoughts from a community needs assessment you might have done as part of the club excellence process. Or in the execution guide, there's also a page which lists about 30 or 100 simple service ideas that can really kind of be a thought starter for service projects and service activities that you might be able to do within the within your club. In the past, since the Day of Service generally falls around a time when many of our clubs do road and park cleanups, you could also possibly consider repurposing one of your existing projects as a Day of Service event. But I would recommend that the Day of Service event be a service project that could generally be completed in just one day, because you'll lose some of the impact of focusing your service on a one-day event if it's something that's going to take several weekends or several weeks to complete. So focusing on something that's going to benefit some people just in the one day would be probably the best project to choose from. So does anyone have any ideas of some one-day service activities that a club can do? You can just enter your comments in the chat box. So I'm just going to see here. So does anyone have any ideas for some service projects, or you can raise your hand if you'd like to be unmuted. Cliff says tree planting. Planting trees and cleaning a park is what we do, says Gary Chandler. Yeah, that's a great service project. Kathy says visiting retirement homes and nursing homes to interact with clients. That was a very popular day of service activity in the first day of service, and I think it's a very good one that really impacts those people in the retirement home. Tim comments about a bike tune-up. Yeah, maybe one of those old bike safety exercises that sometimes the OPP do. Brian McClellan says planting some trees. We have a couple of hands raised, so let's take Cliff. Cliff, you're muted.
One of the service. Thank you. One of the service projects we do is we take the school kids out to a tree farm, and we identify different types of trees and the animal tracks and so on and so forth. And this one of the things that we do to enhance the outdoor education program within the schools, and that of course is a day of service for protecting the environment.
Yeah, that's a fantastic project. You're right, and it's involving youth, involves the environmental project and so on. So I think that's a great little project, and it's something that can easily be done in just one day, right?
Exactly, and we provide the busing out to the area, and it's a great thing for the kids because they're I wouldn't say cooped up, but they don't experience those types of things unless they are in the outdoors.
Exactly. So that's a great service project. Thanks for sharing, Cliff. Let's look at some other comments. Okay, we have Sue Sankster says they have community gardens, which are very popular in New Brunswick and PEI. So yeah, so looking after community gardens could be a great little service project. Sandy comments about they're partnering with anglers and hunters and giving out free saplings as well as doing a perennial swap. Yeah, another environmental project. So the day of service really falls around a time when a lot of these sort of activities would occur. So it's something that you can do, but you can really partner and make it part of the day of service. Kathy comments about doing vision screening and perhaps screening young people, doing a vision screening booth. Bill Friday is giving out free hot dogs and at the same time partnering with Crime Stoppers, providing shredding of old files from and for people in the community. So that's a good day of service activity where you can partner with another organization and make a difference. So yeah, so I think the possibilities might just be endless, and all your day of service coordinator has to do is kind of come up with some of these ideas and present them to your club to come up with a service project. But the key thing when you select a service project, make sure the club's on board with it, because you want everyone in the club involved, because it's something that's going to make a difference in their community. So the next step is developing a publicity plan. Have someone from your club arrange some professional signage for your club. And logos are available from the district, or as I said, there's one available for downloading your handout pane. And for the biggest publicity impact, it's really important to keep the promotional materials professional and consistent. Because if you're really trying to talk and give an image that you're doing a district-wide project that's happening all at the same time, community to community to community, then you want to make sure that you have logos and consistent branding. That's pretty important. We do have in the execution guide, we have templates for press releases and so forth that you can use for the day of service. So in the execution guide, you can see a sample of that template for when you do want to reach out to the media. And then not only are you doing service, you're selling yourself as a club as well. So you have an opportunity to showcase your club members and what you do. So really try to put your best foot forward. Have lots of brochures and lots of handouts about your club activities, because people may be coming and wanting to know more about your organization. And when when they come to the booth or come to your event, your activity you're doing on the day of service, you want to have things like that in order to, in order to be able to talk about what your club does and why it makes a difference. So we do have press releases again in your execution guide. Invite the newspaper, radio, and other media in your area to participate in the event. And whenever talking to the media, try talking about people impacted. Avoid saying things like, our goal is to collect 1,000 pounds of food for the food bank. Instead, try saying something like, today we're collecting food for the food bank. We're hoping to collect enough to feed over 25 people in need in our community for an entire month. Because those statistics are a little more meaningful to the public than 1,000 pounds of food, which I truly don't know what 1,000 pounds of food look like. But most food bank stats say that 40 pounds of food are eaten every month by a person, so 25 people would be impacted by those 1,000 pounds of food. And make sure you notify the district of your plans so they can coordinate visits to the event by district officers. During the A12 Lions Day of Service, each club is visited by district officers to support and help you on your service event. So we really need to kind of know when your events are, where they're going to be, and what your plans are so that we can help you promote it and help you work on it. So the district will also be doing a lot of publicity of your events on social media, newspapers, radio, and TV, but if we don't know about it far enough in advance, the district really can't help you be successful. It's also important to try to plan to have lots of pictures taken. Ensure someone is able to email these throughout the day to the district coordinator so that your club can be added to social media feeds and so on. When taking pictures, try to use action shots for the biggest impact. Try to avoid posed pictures and because they just look staged and don't look very, very interesting. But if you can have pictures of people actually doing service, they're much more effective. And try to get a variety of the demographics of your club members in the picture, men, women, young, and old, so you can promote the many types of people that are in your club. The Lions Clubs International website has some great tips on how to take good publicity pictures, and I'd encourage you to share them with your day of service publicity person. Does anyone else have any publicity tips that we might be able to share with the rest of the group tonight? The bottom line is you really want to encourage local media to come and people that really can help get the message out. Chamber of Commerce perhaps might be someone that you might want to invite to your day of service event. Other service clubs would not be bad too. So. And then finally, when your day of service comes, it's time to implement the activity. Your signage is prepared, your work schedule is in place, brochures are ready to hand out to the public, and before you open your doors to your activity, it's a pretty good thing to brief your club members about the service messages you'd like to present to the public if asked. How many people you're helping, maybe some statistics about the club, some of your other club projects, because those frontline Lions will be the spokespeople for your club, and they'll need to really help you provide a consistent message. Then it's simply time to help people in your community. Smile and show the public you love what you're doing, helping the community. Because putting forward an outstanding image of your club will really make a difference in becoming the go-to club for service in your community. People will want to be a part of it if they see people having fun helping others. So showcase teamwork, positive attitudes, and fun. And don't forget to share those pictures throughout the day and with the district. We just had a comment here about what the Bradford Club is doing for their day of service activity. Just lost it here. They're doing community dinners for Lions Club Service Project, a project that less fortunate members of the community can partake in, and they support the program financially every year. But there'd be a problem with publicity with this event. Cliff Cookman says social media and Facebook can be used to publicize. Podcasts are a great way to publicize, and they're available on demand. Yeah, Bill, that's from Bill Friday. Yeah, Bill does several podcasts as well, so I think they're a great way to have people just tune in and listen to what your project is. It's a great way to advertise and promote. Susan Sangster says social media will get the info out to many people very quickly and the results as well. And Tim suggests, though, you're going to want to make sure you get signed photo releases. Yep, absolutely, if you're taking pictures of various people, yep. So after your day of service, make sure you recognize the success and contributions of the members. Provide genuine thank yous to everyone who participated. At the next club meeting, perhaps hand out participation certificates. Show a slideshow of your pictures at your club. And maybe send a follow-up press release with the results of your service project showing the impact you made. And then also send a report to the district and report online using service activity reporting so the total Lions impact on the day can be measured. And since we're in the midst of our centennial service projects, many of these projects would be some of the areas that you might want to look at for recognition for the Centennial Service Challenge. So recognition is a pretty big thing because, you know, members want to feel like they're appreciated and want to feel like they made a difference. So when the members in your club are involved in a service activity and they've helped, let's say 100 people or 1,000 people in your community, that's pretty important. But they want to know that the time that they put in was worthwhile and was valued by the club members. So it's pretty important to make sure you thank your members. If you don't thank them for their participation, they'll be one of those 1/3 that are potentially on the fence. And then finally, after the recognition piece, you should really take a look at your service project and say, what did we do well and what can we do a little bit better next time? Because you all make notes of any of the changes you'd like to make while the activity is still fresh in your mind. You may also have received contacts from the community during that event, people who were interested in what you were doing and asked questions about your club and its activities. So you want to make sure that those prospective members or perhaps partners for your club don't slip away. So reach out to them and contact them, invite them to another service project, thank them for their input and provide them more information about your club, because that's, you know, this is using the service project as a recruitment tool, because service is the most important thing we have to attract members. Dave Durant comments that the Day of Service is a very good event to get local public relations, and the 2017 Day of Service could be even a better time because of the Centennial. Absolutely, Dave. I think that's very true. I think the Centennial really links well with service in general. So do we have any more questions about the Day of Service or how we can use service as a recruitment activity? The Day of Service isn't a difficult thing to implement in your club. It's just a matter of having someone in your club take charge of it and look after it and forming a committee in order to implement it. But it's something that I think we have to put into place to ensure it happens. So I'm just sort of look around here and we have 22 people on the call, and I think Bob recognized earlier that they were from about 12 or 15 different clubs. So it would be nice to know that we're going to have 15 clubs all participating in service projects. So so just asking around the table, who around the call tonight are planning on doing service projects as part of the district day of service? So Bob comments that Oro is in, Gravenhurst is, that's 2. We only have 2 clubs participating, Nancy Island. I'm pretty confident that that everyone on the call is planning a day of service activity, and they're just going to go back to their club and ensure that that it happens. So we have several here: Barrie South, Penetang, Tiny Township, Wasaga Beach. You know, it's really great to see so many clubs participating, because it is a very worthwhile project, and I think really engages your membership too and focuses them on one activity. You know, a lot of times our clubs rally around a fundraiser because they feel it's necessary, but planning a service activity sometimes never got the same sort of focus that we did in the past. So I think participating in something like a day of service can be very worthwhile for a club. And it's great to hear from Cliff that Magnetawan is in. When we did the first day of service, it was in conflict with Magnetawan's smelt run, so they weren't able to participate. So it's nice to hear Magnetawan's involved, and Aurelia. So I would say that virtually all the clubs are participating. And then Susan Sangster is also encouraging all the clubs in multiple District N, which would be New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, Newfoundland and Labrador, and a little bit of Maine there, to participate in a day of service as well in our own clubs. So I think that's really really fantastic to hear, Susan. Thanks a lot. You know, I think focusing on one day of service can become a movement that can really engage and get your club members involved. Does anyone else have any questions about the day of service and anything that they're struggling with implementing within their club? Tim says prepare every member. Yeah, absolutely. You know, your members all have to be prepared to do service, because they sometimes they don't know how, and you want to make sure that they have all the answers that they might be approached about during the day of service. Yeah, so I think preparing them is pretty important. Okay, we have Cliff Cookman with his hand up. I'll just unmute Cliff. Cliff, go ahead.
Yeah, we were wondering about the liability and so on and so forth as far as cleanup of the roadways were concerned. We had been doing it for a number of years, and then all of a sudden the Ministry of Transportation laid out so many rules and regulations that you have to have hard hats, and you have to have steel-toed boots and identifying vests and so on and so forth. And this caused a great deal of difficulty as far as continuing on with the program. And I'm wondering whether if there is some legality that's that is somewhat of a roadblock for this particular activity.
Yeah, maybe if it's a Ministry of Transportation road, it might have a little bit different regulations, but I know my own club used to look after a district maintained road, and we used to have a how to pick up garbage class once a year, and the district would provide us a little video or something that we would have to watch and sign off that our club members knew how to cross the road properly, and we had to wear vests and so on. But it was pretty low key. It wasn't by any means in depth, but maybe some of the highways have a little bit deeper regulations and so on. But I would reach out to the MTO and see what they require for sure. But you're right, it might be a bit of a roadblock for that. So I know maybe we just unmute Bob because I know Bob does a road cleanup in his area too. So, Bob, do you have any questions about liability and road cleanups?
We're lucky in Simcoe County. They have a very easy to follow program. They have a, well, it used to be VCR tape. I don't know if they have a new one, but it's well thought through, and it is not nearly as restrictive as Cliff is talking about.
Yeah, it's like how to pick up garbage, right?
Oh no, also the safety factor.
Yeah, a little bit of
facing traffic. And
yeah,
wear best.
Exactly. So yeah, so Cliff, that might be a challenge that you have there if you've got some MTO highways and so on that you have to look after. Yep. So, but you know, I would approach them and see what the requirements are in order to do it. So.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, because what we were doing is we were doing actually both access routes into the MAG, and they're both designated as highways, and this is where we ran into the problems, and therefore people said, you know, our own club members said, there's no way that we're going to go out and buy vests and steel-toed boots and hats and so on and so forth in order to comply with the MTO.
Yeah, you're right. Len comments that anytime you're working on a right-of-way, you have to have high visible clothing. So that may, you know, and Len being with Hydro, I think he would know what we have to wear and on the side of a highway. So, and he probably has access to a whole bunch of vests. So we'll just ask him if we need them. So. Bill Friday says to attract drivers to our free hot dogs, we have 2 of our members dressed in Lions costumes waving them in. Yeah, that's a fantastic idea to attract people in. And Kathy says we wore vests years ago when they were in the Gopher Club, and just trying to keep everyone safe. So. I don't know if there's any other comments there. So. Anyone else have any questions or comments about the day of service and how you can participate better? Bob says, have an elevator speech ready when talking to the public. Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with preparing your members. So, you know, even your last meeting before the day of service, you know, talk to them about, say, hey, we want to put our best foot forward. So let's make sure we're talking about good stuff to the public when they come to us. Just a couple of minutes might be all you have when you're giving them a hot dog or flipping a pancake or whatever. Have a little elevator speech about what your club does and why it makes a difference. So I think that's pretty important. Okay. Are there any other questions? Tim says, do a membership minute during a regular meeting and have a few members do one each meeting. So so that's pretty important too. You just have get to practice how you get the message across to your people. Yeah, that's excellent. And Susan has a great comment. The members' attitude when they're out there is very important. I like to think that when you're serving the public and doing community service, you're on stage as an organization, and the appearance of your members, how neat they are they branded as Lions, do they have professional signage and so forth, all puts forward a proper appearance, and that attracts people to your club. If you have people all over the place who don't have professional appearance and who are miserable when they're trying to serve the public, people are going to come across there and not want to be a part of your organization. So yeah, having a positive attitude and a positive image is absolutely correct. That's fantastic, Susan. Thanks.
Chris, the Lions mascot suits are absolutely phenomenal too, to get, especially the kids come up to you and bring their parents with them. Absolutely.
And you're right. It's about being professional and being being focused on it and understanding that you're serving people, but you're also selling Lions to the public, aren't you? And so if you can attract kids over to your event and so on by using a lion's costume, I think you hit it on the head. Because a lot of times, and I will admit there are probably times I've seen our own club do it, where you see and hear things behind the scenes or that are not positive discussions and so on. And Susan just commented about the verbal discussions we are often overheard, so watch communications between each other, right? And Susan's absolutely right on that too, because those things get picked up and can destroy all the goodwill you're doing if you hear members bickering behind the food booth, right? So it's all about image and being positive and so on. And like I said, it at the end of the day, it's a sales job, isn't it? And it's one where we're out here selling what we're doing and selling the service to the public. So are there any other comments or questions about the day of service before we wrap up? So tonight, we want to talk about service and what service was and what it's not. We learned some of the importance of service and how service can be a recruitment tool. We heard some stories like Tiny Township, who was able to recruit people, and Val, who said they did a service project today and were able to attract people into the organization by doing service. And then we talked about some of the execution steps that should be occurring right now as you're planning your district day of service. So this is the last Global Membership Team webinar planned for this year, and I'd like to thank Bob and the rest of the Global Membership Team for all their help in planning and moderating them. I know Tim's been very helpful throughout most of our webinars with supporting and monitoring the chat box, and our global leadership partners who we try to work closely with all year long in our membership activities. Thank you to all our friends out on the Rock who stayed up late tonight to participate with us, and thank you to Susan for sitting in and participating with us too. And I'm really looking forward to seeing and hearing of your successes in implementing a district day of service out there as well. And we also had some participants from out west who skipped dinner to be with us tonight. So all of you are invited to join in on any of our future webinars. So, the links go out all over the place, and thank you very much for joining in. When you exit the survey, please provide us some feedback on the topics you'd like to see in future GMT webinars as well, because our goal is really to serve your needs. Tim has a little plug in here. His next webinar is hands-on Office 365, because here in the district we've migrated to a new email platform. So it's Tuesday night at 7 p.m. So if you'd like to participate in that webinar to learn how to use our email at our district level more effectively, reach out to Tim and he'll send you the link and so on. So, so thank you all for joining us tonight, and have a great night.